What's going on, Taj? How you living, my man?
I'm good, big bro. I see you always putting in work. Look at you on the road as we speak.
Bro, you know it. You better know it, man. Hey, it's only right. I learned from the game. We prepared from game to game to game. So in life, man, I get my day going from event to event to event. That's the only way to keep it moving, bro.
I already know. Even on the weekends, weekends are
Even
days off, man.
bro, the weekend don't end, bro. Hey, the weekend is how you get ahead, man. Hey, after 2020. I don't need no weekend. Let me
That's
let
what
me
I'm
go
talking
work right
about.
quick. Yeah, exactly,
Right.
exactly, exactly.
I love it, man. See, this is why we wanted to have you kick it off because you've been a shining example of what it looks like to blend work and life, right? That's the ultimate goal of an entrepreneur to be able to live your life and get paid to do it and have an impact on others. And you've been doing that for years, man. Before we get into it, normally I might say my acknowledgments for the end, but I just want to acknowledge you up front, man. You mind if you know what I mean? I
Go,
just gotta
bro. Do your thing, brother. Do your thing, bro.
all right, man. I gotta let you know first and foremost. For anybody who doesn't know, you may have heard me talk about this before, but back in 2018, Big Bro D Furlow was one of the first people to show me love. I reached out like, "Hey, I want to start working with athletes. I have no idea what I'm doing, but I'm gonna stick with this thing." And you, man, you were someone who looked out for me, was willing to get on the phone with me, show me love, give me some tips, some encouragement, some words of wisdom. You told me keep going. So to fast forward and look at this 3 years later, man, to have you on here and be able to interview you on this platform, this is a humbling moment for me, man. I appreciate you coming on here to show love. We haven't even got started yet, but I appreciate you, man. I just want to get that out
Bro,
the way.
bro. Appreciate that love. Appreciate those words, man, and appreciate you for reaching out, man, and for being who you are, and for leading the way, man. Because it's a lot of us that need this help, that need this knowledge, and you took in the opportunities you've been given, and you letting this thing grow and letting your light shine, man. So hats off to you and blessings to you, man. I'm thankful I was able to be a part of the journey. I'm gonna play my role, bro.
Yes, sir. Much love. All right, enough about that. We're gonna dive into this story. Not just a story, but I know you're gonna drop some gems and give some words of encouragement and wisdom too. I wanted to start out with. I want to jump in with how you started getting prepared while you were in college. Because this is something that I've heard you talk about now. A lot of athletes are prepared. I sure wasn't prepared, but you knew kind of towards the end of your career that you were starting to get prepared. You knew you were going to have to make a shift. So can you talk a little bit about that and what was it that had you jump into that space of I need to start getting ready now before I graduate?
So on the front end, I had a traumatic adjustment to my sports ego and my sports identity, and that was coming out of high school in my senior year when I thought everything was going to be good, to hurting my knee, which was meniscus, and waking up with ACL surgery. So at that point, that was a major shift. That was my pre-20. That was my pre-2020 to me personally. Before 2020 was a thing. That was my personal pandemic that altered my life, and all those football scholarship opportunities and recruitment opportunities magically disappeared. And through the grace of God, door was open for me to make it to the University of Tennessee. So when I got to the University of Tennessee, and I still had this chip on my shoulder, I had to prove myself, I had to earn my scholarship. That's when everything kind of started to just kind of come into perspective of, hey, if this thing don't work out, that feeling I had when I was not an athlete, when I felt like I was irrelevant, when I felt like I was nobody to a degree, at some point it's going to come back. And I just had a chance to pay attention to those guys that were older than me that came before me, and they end up not having those professional careers. They didn't last as long. Guys went to the league and came back, and they ended up coming back to school. And I'm like, bro, why are you coming back to school? And you didn't go to class in the first place. And that's when I realized they was coming back to school because school was a safe haven. It was a safe place. It was a great middle ground. It was a good place to figure out what you want to do or who you need to become. And I just took from the game awareness of my environment and my situation to realize if I don't figure out something, I'm going to be just like these guys when it's all said and done. And that wasn't nothing negative against them, but it just was guys didn't know. And I'm like, okay, either I'm going to be like them or I'm going to have to figure this thing out. So I just started to prepare myself. Okay, what are my skill sets? What am I good? What do I need to know? Who do I need to get around? What type of money can be made out here in life? Because I thought the only way you make money, you was either a rapper or you play ball. And when I realized it's people making that type of money, but they don't play sports, and they ain't rapping, I'm like, what are those fields? What are those professions? How do you get it? So I just started surrounding myself indirectly. I stopped looking like a jock. I started wearing suits and stuff to class. My teammates, you can ask them to this day, they looked at me like it was funny. But I wanted to shift how people perceived me so they could receive me different. So,
Ooh.
because the way you receive is the way you perceive. So I started switching up. I stopped wearing athletic stuff to class because I knew I had to figure something out. And this is going into this is my junior year. So I started to get around those people that was making moves, making money, doing other stuff outside of my sports bubble. And indirectly, I had a chance to learn. It was about relationships. It ain't necessarily what you know, it's who you know, who knows you. And people who do business with people they know, they like, and trust. So I knew I had to shift my circle, shift my center of influence, shift some of those relationships, build upon this football stage and this brand that they're giving us indirectly, because people like to hang out with athletes. We make them look good, make them look cool. But that's what's in it for them and for you. So I just made sure it was a reciprocal value. Hey, I'm gonna hang out with you. I'm gonna make you look good. You're gonna look fly in front of the ladies, or you're gonna look cool in front of your boys. But I'm gonna knowledge. I'm gonna get this game while I'm with you. And that's what I started to do. And that's what I realized, man, it's plenty of ways to eat out here. Not just that, brother. That's what the game shifted. And I realized, hey, it's plenty of ways to get it. So if this thing don't work out with you going to the league, you still can win. You just got to learn a new game. And the game that we know was sports. The game we know was, I knew was football, but it was plenty of games out here. I just hadn't put the work in and been exposed to it. And that exposure is what opened my eyes, which opened my mind, which made me shift my grind, shift my mind. And now I was able to start this kind of move a little bit differently.
I wanted to talk about how you changed the way that people were perceiving you. You started dressing differently. You started sitting at the front of the class. You started really looking at different lanes that you could go into, not just afterwards, but during, right? There we go. EJ Cutler said,
Yep.
how you are received is how you perceive. That's exactly what I'm talking about. And the thing I wanted to point out about that is that I felt like you were starting to not just change the way others perceive you, but the way you perceived yourself. So really, and you could probably speak to this better than I could. I don't even know if you really knew it at the time, but it sounds like you were starting to shift your own identity, not just for others, but you maybe just subconsciously knew it was time to start shifting that internally. So what was that process like? Were you aware of that at the time? Were you aware that, hey, I'm shifting my own identity, not just for others, for how I feel about myself? Were you aware of that?
Yeah, well, I was aware from a brand perspective. On the identity piece that came later, but on the brand piece, I knew people knew me as an athlete. I knew myself as an athlete. So identity wise, you're right. I had to reintroduce myself to somebody. I had to reintroduce people to myself, but I had to reintroduce myself to myself as somebody new, because all I knew myself was for an athlete based on the title I gave myself. So in that time frame, when I started to change my clothes and I was viewed different and perceived different, I removed that label of just being an athlete, because a lot of times we box ourselves in. So when I started to dress up and dress differently, really what happened was I went to class, and I had this class. I can't even remember the exact class. It was not geology. It was women's studies. It was some women's studies class or something like that. One of them crazy ones. And I sat by my teammate, and we all wore our warm-ups. And I've turned my first paper in, and that paper got lost. I turned my second paper in, that paper got lost. I turned my third paper in, that paper got lost, which I had done those papers at the academic center, so they know I did it. So I turned them all in, and come to find out at the end of that class, she had a problem with men, but she also didn't necessarily like athletes. So that moment there, that was the aha moment. You go to school, people think, oh, everybody loves an athlete. Well, there was some cases where they didn't necessarily like us. So what I realized was, how can I not be perceived as an athlete and people take me for face value for who I am? So for one, I had to internally realize, okay, how do I take myself for who I am and not just this title, this box of an athlete? So when I started to dress different, I felt my energy was picked up different. People respected me, not just because I played the game. And most of the time, I didn't even tell them that I played sports. They didn't already know. So I just start testing the waters and see, hey, could I get into certain places if they just went on me playing football? And when I started to realize sometimes I could, but sometimes me playing football got me in those doors, I just started to use that identity. It's okay, I might have played ball that got me in this door, but hey, I'm interested in learning about how finances work. I'm interested in learning about how real estate works. So the identity started to shift in the conversation internally and externally, because they realized that I ain't just want to talk about no game. I ain't just want to talk about who we played on Saturday. Like, I ain't just want to, okay, I'm going to make you look cool. We can talk about this. But at the end of the day, I'm going to pick your brain. I'm going to ask you some questions because I want to get all this game from you, because you're in a different world, you're in a different bubble, you're in a different space. So the self-identity or just realizing who you are outside of being an athlete, that identity awareness, and just starting to wake up and realize that you are more than an athlete, that all did kind of happen on the front end. But it was not necessarily identity the first thing that came to mind. It was really brand, stage, opportunity as being an athlete. How can I maximize it and capitalize it? And then, okay, if I put on the suit, do they perceive me a little different? Am I received a little different? And now they see me as somebody else that's been an athlete. Now we can have deeper conversations, more meaningful conversations, and not these surface level talking about who won, how many touchdowns got scored, or who's going to start this week, that type of stuff that honestly at the end of the day you don't really care to talk about anyway. So it happened. Identity definitely happened on the front end. Was I as aware of it? No. But was I kind of cognizant of it to a degree? Yes.
Wow. And so the fact that you were starting to do that work early, or at least somewhat aware that you needed to make that shift, do you feel like that helped you have a softer landing?
Oh, it definitely cushioned the blow, bro.
Right.
Because the identity crisis still hit me, but it ain't hit as hard as it hit some of my boys. Because I had already started to make that transition into, hey, I'm more than an athlete. And when you think about it from a sports perspective, earlier in your life, if you play multiple sports, you might be an athlete, but in one case, you could be a relay person. Next case, you could be triple jump. Next case, you can be a long jump. You're doing multiple things in one sport. So you're multifaceted. You're multidimensional. On basketball, you can be playing offense and you can be playing defense. You might be playing shooting guard. You might be playing point guard. You're playing multiple positions, multiple roles in general. In life, you might be a brother. You might be a cousin. You might be a uncle, all at the same time just because you're a male. So you got multiple titles. You're playing multiple roles. You're multifaceted anyway. And when I stopped just thinking, oh, I'm just a football player, you can be a football player. You can be a businessman. You can be an entrepreneur. You can be a real estate investor. Like, it's just a title. So it helped me realize that early. And so if you didn't do that early, a lot of times when you hit real life, oh, I'm a football player, and now all of a sudden it's gone. You don't have those other titles or those other identities, things that you can kind of realize who you are or what you do. Even though that's not necessarily who you are, but it makes it feel a little bit more comfortable if you have something to identify yourself as. Even though we realize at the end of the day, we're bigger than all those titles we give ourselves. But that was a starting block for me.
That's amazing, D. And then something I really appreciated about you, man, especially from our first conversation, you were breaking down to me, not only were you able to separate yourself from the identity of being an athlete, but you immediately went into the mode of, I'm going to intentionally carve out a new identity that aligns with what you want, not just to get a quick paycheck, which is something we talked about a lot of athletes kind of fall into, just to check the box and say, hey, I made it, I got a job, I'm doing this. At the family dinners, I can say I'm working at this company. But you were focused on that long-term vision. You were focused on what kind of life you wanted to live, what kind of legacy you wanted to live, and how you could impact and inspire people. So can you talk about how you started to carve out a lane for yourself? Well, first of all, how did you know, hey, I want to be a speaker, I want to be an author, I want to give back, I want to change lives? How did you know that that's what you wanted to do? And how did you go about executing on that plan?
Man, well, a lot of times, and even to this day, I wasn't necessarily sure I knew it, but it was something I was already doing. So I always tell people, start doing a self-assessment of those things you're already doing, those things you love to do, those things you do for free, those things you do for fun, those things that wake you up early, those things that keep you up late. And most of the time right now it's your sport. But in reality, it's probably other things. And in reality, those other things are probably a skill set or make you unique. And in reality, it's probably somebody getting paid to do those exact things. So what I realized was, look, I was already rallying the troops. I was already encouraging people. I was already speaking and breaking the huddle. I was already that guy. I was just disguised as a football player. So over a period of time, I realized, hey, it's people already out here that get paid to be in front of people. It's people out here that get paid to talk to people. It's people out here that get paid to make people feel good. It's people out here that get paid to help people. Oh, I got those skill sets. I'm already doing it. All I got to do is when I'm no longer playing this game, I can go do that and get paid to do it. So it was already a purpose that was inside of me. It was just, I was disguised as a football player, so I didn't really know what it was. And that's one of those things that once you realize you already got these intangible things that you're doing already, that you love, that you're natural at, just because it's natural to you don't mean it's natural to everybody else. Just because it's natural to you don't mean you can get paid to do it. And then when I started to look at, okay, the lifestyle I wanted, it was one of those things, okay, we played this game so we can change our family's life because we know you can get paid the big bucks. Well, when you make this transition, what other industry can you get into that's going to allow you to get paid those big bucks and still change your family's life? And based off my homework, I happen to have some people around me that was in sales. I happen to have people around me that was business owners and entrepreneurs. So in my head, I'm like, well, they making that type of money. It sounds like I need to be doing one of those type things because the goal is still the goal, change my family's life, help my mom out, get ourselves in a better situation financially. So the goal was the goal. I just had to shift gears and shift vehicles. So it really became which vehicle is going to let me take me where I want to go? Football got me so far. Which vehicle am I going to get into next is going to get me where I want to go, going to get me to the final destination. And as I started to do those self-assessments and then those career assessments, I figured out what those things that were, what skill sets I had, and how I can go apply those things. And once I removed that label, it removed that pressure of saying, okay, you only can get it via football, basketball, track, or tennis. Now you can get it any of these other ways. Now that you know what the MCAL level can be, now that you know your potential, now you know you got those skill sets. Now you just need to go apply them, go put that work in, go get that 10,000 hours in, just like you did on the court, on the field, on the track, and then you can go be a pro at being an entrepreneur. You can be a pro at being a speaking professional. You can go be a pro at building a business. Like, it's the same concept. It just happened to come to me a little differently.
Man, big bro, I just need to know, should we pass the collection plate around now or later? Because you're preaching right now, man. That's all I need to know, man. Not only that, but you're out there standing up in the cold delivering this message to us, man. Like, going in. Oh, man. Okay. Let me just, I could pull so many things out of that, but I'm going to start with this one. The goal is still the goal. I love that you touched on this, man. Like you said, if you made it to college, if you made it to the pros, at the end of the day, all of our motivation for doing that, for striving to reach that level, is to be able to carve out a better life for our family in some capacity. No matter who it is, no matter what sport you play, no matter where you played, in the back of your mind at some point, it was, I'm doing this not just for me, but so I can have an impact with my education, with the type of money that'll be coming in. And then, like you said, why settle for it? Why settle for it now that I'm done playing? Oh, that vehicle of sports is gone. Why should I just sit back and be like, hey, I guess it's over now. My life is over. But the fact that you touched on the goal is still the goal is huge, man. I definitely appreciate you sharing that, because I think people need to hear that. I wanted to make sure that you had a chance to share your actual transition formula, because I thought that was dope. And when I first connected with you, that was one of the things that inspired me to be like, I can't just be out here talking about, the transition. I have to come up with solutions. And you've been about solutions from the jump. And so I saw that you had a formula. I'm like, okay, I'm going to put together my own formula. I'm going to use that to help people. But please talk about your transition formula, because when I first heard about you and connected with you, that was one of the things that blew me away. And I thought it was so well put together. So if you don't mind, please share that formula you came up with.
Absolutely. And I got in the car because my phone was down. So I'm on the charger now. So am I breaking in or cutting out? I want to make sure y'all can hear me good.
No, you're good. You're good right now.
I'm clear on your end?
Yes, sir.
Okay, perfect. So the transition formula, it was simple. The transition formula I found was everything that I was going through was preparing me for where I was going to. So when I started to realize, okay, it's simple. What can I take away from what I'm going through? Because we're all going through something. And the question is, what can you take away from it? So that became my T. Good, bad, ugly, indifferent. What can I take away from it? So once I realized it was always something I could take away from things that was happening to me, okay, if I could take away from it, the next question I got to ask myself, how does it correlate to where I'm going? Now that I know, okay, I played ball. I came out of college, hurt my shoulder. The league didn't work out. I still got this goal. Okay, how do I get into the sales? I got to pick a career. I want to have something that's going to give me unlimited earning potential, just like sports. So, okay, I get into sales. Okay, now I'm in sales. I'm having some success, but I'm still struggling. What did I learn in sports that I can take away from that? So that's my T. I did the takeaway. Okay, I learned how to prepare. I learned how to study. I learned how to execute. So those are the things I took away from sports. Okay, how does that correlate to sales? Well, I get into sales, and I had to learn the steps of the sales process. I had to learn company credibility. I had to learn how to pitch people, how to learn how to close. So I said, okay, based off football, we had the scouting report. We did a walkthrough. We watched film. We will review the film, and then we will practice and we will review the film. So okay, I got a scouting report. I'm a walkthrough. I'm a practice. I'm a watch that film and review the film and make those corrections. So when I got into sales, I said, okay, the only way I'm going to learn sales so I can dominate is to take the same principles I learned from sports and correlate them. So with that scouting report, I said, okay, I got the company credibility. Now that I know this company credibility, I'm going to actually learn the steps of the sale. All right. Now that I learn the steps of the sale, I'm going to role play that with sales individuals that I work with so that I understand how I apply this information versus waiting until I'm in front of a customer. Okay. Now that I don't role play, we're going to practice this thing. How's my closes? How's my posture? How's my body language? How's my facial expressions? Did I say the right thing? How's my timing? How's my voice inflection? And then I recorded that, and I would go back and review the film, just like I did in football. And I realized that I did some stuff right, I did some stuff wrong. So I realized how I could take the things I learned from sports, I could take it away, I could correlate it to to sales. And then the C was I figured out how to carry it over. I started applying it to the sales process. So now I was practicing on the people that were co-workers versus practicing when it was game day on the client that could buy something from me. So the T plus the C plus the C was the formula. And if I did that right, I could equal the ST, which is a successful transition into sales. So the transition formula was pretty simple. It was a takeaway. Find out what you're growing through. Good, bad, ugly, indifferent. We're always going through something. Now, what can I take away from it? All right, how does that correlate to where I'm at right now in the present or where I'm going in the future? Once I realize that, okay, how do I carry it over to where I'm at right now and where I'm going in the future? Once I figure that out and I apply it, then I have a successful transition. And that right my transition formula, because this is what I believe, Taj. We either in transition, just came out of a transition, or a transition is on its way. The question is, are you going to be prepared for it? The question is, are you going to let it blindside you like 2020 did? Like, the question is, it's going to happen. It's just up to you to know the formula, know where you're at in that transition and how to apply it. So that same process the game gave me from playing and putting this work in all these years, I was able to figure out how can I take those intangible, transferable skills that the game has given me and take them over here and apply them to life as an entrepreneur, apply them to life in sales, apply them to life as a husband, apply them to life as a father, apply them to life as anything, and now have a successful transition so I can thrive faster, go harder, go stronger, go longer than anybody else. And that's the formula that applied for me. And from that point, I was able to show other athletes and show everyday individuals how to take that transition formula and apply it to anything that they was going through in life.
Yes, sir. Man, on fire right now. I'm surprised the signal didn't break up again. You were dropping so much heat, man. And that you're still a baller. That's what you really get at. You're still balling in life. Like you don't hit people up. You don't knock people's chin strap loose anymore. But you're waking up every day and attacking life like a baller. And that's a beautiful thing, man. And I appreciate you sharing that. I appreciate you sharing the formula. What's next for Derrick Furlow? What's on the horizon? What you got working on right now? Some stuff may be top secret, but what can you talk about that we can expect from you coming up next?
Hey man, I know we got some stuff we're working on. I don't know if it's top secret or not, but I don't know if the streets know. But the collab, so people stay for the athlete entrepreneur collab. I ain't gonna say too much more on that, but I'm gonna let Taj give y'all the information on that. So that's dropping. We got the online curriculum courses that we're making a lot of adjustments to due to the adjustments that done happened to just student athlete development and athletes after 2020. So we got some major adjustments there, but really being able to take these transferable skills and speak to athletes on the athletic level where they understand it. That's what's next for Derrick Furlow, is being able to touch universities across the country where now we can speak the athletic lingo and actually help them before they get to this point and they transition into life after sports and they're struggling. I want to be more preventive than reactive. So really, man, we are applying the full court press, applying pressure to get the information and the proper content into these institutions that's going to help athletes on the front end, so we ain't got to worry about them struggling on the back end. So that's what we're pressing at, and we plan on taking this thing on every platform, whether the content can be available to the individual or to the organization. So that's really the main goal, man. How can we help on the front end versus react to it on the back end? Because it's a lot of cats when they down and out, and they don't care what you got. Mm-hmm. But if you can touch them on the front end and realize the mindset, if you change your mind, you can transition your mind, you can transition your grind early. That's what it's about. So we're working on this mind transition. So the grind transition has the whole structure. That's the goal. So every single day we're waking up, accepting nothing, defying everything, and attacking life.
Man, I love it. And where can people tap in with you if they want to learn more about what you're up to? They want to follow your journey. I know you're not hard to find, but how can people get in touch if they want to check out some of the content, reach out to you, connect, all that good stuff?
Hey, on every platform, is this on YouTube? That's on IG. That's okay. on
every platform. Just type in Derrick Furlow Jr. You know where to find him. He'll pop up.
They can check out sportslessons.com or Daryl.com, but that's why I reside in the place. Hopefully that went through.
I'm gonna just tell everybody to type in Derrick Furlow Jr. You know what I mean? Just type in. He's everywhere, folks. You can't miss him. But Derrick, thank you for coming on to share, man. I appreciate it. Definitely looking forward to the projects we're working on. It's hush hush for now, but people will know about it soon. And have a good one, man. Be safe out there on the road. Much love to you. We'll talk soon.